All right, so we are live, guys. We'll let some more of the people stragglers hop in as we go. Seth, you want to hop on and share your screen?
Yeah.
All right, so we are live, guys. We'll let some more. Cool. Guys, welcome, welcome. If it's your first time here, great to see you. I see a lot of new people as well. A lot of other people should be hopping on as well. Some people messaged me, said they'll be running a few behind.
Yeah.
Um, Today, our special topic, project management and manage renovations right and manage them correctly. It's very important, especially new investors. If you're going to be working with a contractor, even if you're purchasing your first home for you to live in, we're going to have some really relevant topics. And our special guest, he should be able to answer some of these basic questions that we take for granted as investors, but may bring you guys some high value.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a good mix today. New and returning.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. You ready? We want to get
Yep.
rolling?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Sounds good. Well, for those folks who are new, my name is Seth, and I've been a real estate investor since 2018, 2019. I own a couple of doors. I focus a lot on wholesaling and fix and flipping, though. Been in Morgantown for a little bit over a year, started a meetup to kind of give back to the community, and that's where I met Ray. And Ray and I have decided to get on here once a week and try to share as much knowledge as possibly can with you guys. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, Ray Glim guys, over 100 doors, $10 million in real estate deals done. I've fortunately have many accomplishments, but one of the biggest things that we do is we host this every week, Tuesday, totally free, 6:30 Eastern time. We bring on specialists. Eric's our special guest tonight. We talk high value, we talk real estate. For real estate investors, realtors, it's great for everyone to actually that wants to learn without having to actually pay. So we do this Tuesday free just to get you guys introduced to the space. So hopefully you guys get some high value from this. If you can, make sure you put your name in the chat, where you're from, social medias. That way we can continue to build our network. This is all about networking here as well, guys. We've seen a lot of deals done in this room, so hopefully we can continue to encourage that.
Absolutely.
So,
Make sure the lawyers are happy. This is our disclaimer here. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with appropriate professionals before making any decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. Basically, guys, we are not lawyers or accountants or financial advisors, and you should absolutely find the professionals and get advice from them as well.
awesome.
Got some
So
breaking news, Ray.
breaking news. Every week we do this segment, just kind of keep you guys updated on what's going on. This kind of ties in with what we'll be talking about today. The U.S. is desperate for new housing supply. We've been talking about this for the past few weeks. I think they announced that we're about 7.2 million homes short through the U.S. That's a crazy number, right? I think usually it's about recently they've announced like 2 million, but now they're saying it's about 7 million. So it's not going to be any better anytime soon. I think 2 million new homes are coming on board, I believe. Um, However, we're still not going to be able to bridge that gap, at least in the near term. Okay. So very important for real estate investors to know. People like Eric who are building, these ADUs, he's helping with the housing supply in a massive, massive way. So it's very important, I think, for us to stay tuned and see how this continues to develop. We're going to see housing prices, I believe, continue to rise, especially as interest rates drop low. We're going to see that continue to go up. So just make sure you're on the watch out and look out for this stuff.
Yep. getting more creative too, right? On how to create these new houses and stuff like that. And I think Eric's doing a lot of that too out there on the West Coast. So
Yeah. All right. And then right now, every week we do our gold digger segment. This is the most important segment, guys. I like to hear about you guys, whatever small accomplishments you might have had this past week. It could be anything from, your real estate accomplishments, or even if you went to the gym, this week. I want to hear from you guys. So anybody who wants to open up, share any goals that they've accomplished this week. Feel free to unmute yourselves.
Chad,
Go.
you're unmuted. You want to share something?
Yeah, I had a new listing go live Saturday, and we got an offer 20,000 over asking price. Plus, they'll handle the first 5,000 if any repairs are needed from the home inspection. So that was pretty good after it's been a long winter, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to see the spring markets here, and the spring buyers are definitely starting to already get frantic.
Yeah, congratulations. We're gonna see more of that, I think. I think it's only gonna get worse as interest rates go down. So
Definitely.
congratulations to you.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else, any small wins that they want to share before we move on?
I'll share.
Yep, go ahead, Steph.
I signed my first tenant for our first property. She put it down her deposit and everything. So now it's just finalizing some things with the house and getting it ready.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Congratulations. I know you've been working on that one. That was a short term too. What, 1 week, 2 weeks?
But finding her,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that was like a week and a half.
Congratulations. Awesome. That's awesome. Anyone else, any small wins before we go on? Good, good. All right. With no further ado, we're gonna introduce Eric Escobar. So Eric, I met I think Eric, we met at Limitless. It was the first time I met you. And then actually I met Eddie there as well. So Eric, we met at Limitless, and I kind of follow his social media. The guy knows what he's talking about. I always vet and make sure people know what they're talking about. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to the construction game. And I figured we could ask him some questions. So Eric, if you want to give us a brief introduction, tell us what you do before we continue on.
Yeah, so basically we buy single family homes or for our customers. So we do this for ourselves. That's one thing that I got to tell you guys from the get-go. When you guys are looking for contractors, don't look for the cheapest price. Look for somebody that's doing what you're doing as well, because they get the game too. So that's number one. But we help customers build homes in their backyards, and the housing shortage is kind of crazy here in Los Angeles. So we're able to build these for $250,000, $300,000, which I don't know where in your guys' neck of the woods that might be a lot of money, but here average price of a house is around $750,000, $800,000. So it's a steal for most people. So they're kind of like jumping on this, and we help customers do that. And in that time while we're doing it and we're being builders for other people, we're buying properties ourselves and building ADUs as well, which are called ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
So let me ask you a question, and then before we get started, when you find a deal or when you find one, what vets it for like, hey, you know what, I want to keep this one? What do you look for?
Number one is location. It has to be a good area, so I don't mind paying a little higher for the right location. I don't like, for instance, I don't know where everybody's at across the U.S., but here, tenant laws are super favorable for the tenant, obviously, right? So we try to stay on one side of the street to the other, because like we stay in the smaller cities, because smaller cities are not tenant friendly. Even though the state's tenant friendly, smaller cities favor or not favor the landlord, but they kind of go more with the landlord compared to if we're like built or like we're buying properties in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, the city, it's super pro tenant. So then we have a hard time working there. So we stay from out of Los Angeles, and we're usually in the smaller cities.
And just like we mentioned on most of our calls, guys, we make sure that whenever we invest in a particular area, we're very aware of what the landlord-tenant relationship has to be like, and especially when it comes to, I know Holly's dealing with it, evictions. So we want to be very specific and make sure that we're investing in places that are landlord-friendly if we're going to be landlords. So I think that's pretty important. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, they say number one rule in real estate, right? It's location, location, location. It's really the top three rules, right? It's definitely the most important thing.
Yeah. And so guys, if you have a question for Eric, if you want to put it in the chat, or we can unmute once we go through it if you guys have any points that you want to talk about. But we have a couple questions I think will be high value for you guys I want to get through first. So Seth, if you want to hit the next one or the first one.
Yeah. If my computer would do it.
Okay.
That went the wrong way. Hold on.
No worries. So,
Technically difficult.
we talked about this, with the news coming out. Where do you see the housing market? Because Eric's an investor as well, so I really value your investor side as well. Where do you see the housing market, renovations, ADUs, new builds going in the next 5 years?
So the way I see it, I have a group of like 6 friends that I kept together since high school, right? Like these are my same 6 friends from high school. These 6 friends, one of them has a house. The other 5 are trying to get a house, but they're just getting beat every single time, or interest rates jump, they fall out. So they're having a hard time. It's not that they're not making money. It's just difficult. So where do I see housing going in the next 5 years? If these are just it's a small sample size, but like my friends, there's a bunch of other people in the same scenario. And I keep hearing this over and over and over. Like there's still things going over asking here in Los Angeles. So to me, it's like, hey, it's time to build in your backyard or buy properties where you can build in your backyard. And this is not only happening here in Los Angeles, it's going across the United States. So I've seen some states in the East Coast already picking this up. So this is something that you guys, even if you're just starting, you're brand new investors, this is something you need to start studying, which are the ADUs or second home in your backyard.
Yeah, and so I'm doing an ADU play actually in West Virginia. There is,
Nice.
it's in Florida. They've actually started allowing, I believe, ADUs. So this is something that is because affordable housing is actually the next crisis I believe that we're going to run into. And as you said, there's a shortage of housing in general. So not only is there a shortage of housing, but there's a shortage of affordable housing. So,
Correct.
making sure that there is enough supply, which we do not have, obviously. So I appreciate that point of view. Somebody in the comments asked Anthony Taylor, he said, what are some pointers when looking into a good location? How did the pros differentiate a good location and an okay location? So if you want to key in on that one, Eric, since you mentioned location.
So in my neck of the woods, I grew up in a city next to Compton called Linwood, California. Everybody in Linwood, everybody in Compton, everybody in all the surrounding cities want to move to this one city. For whatever reason, they call it the Mexican Beverly Hills. Whatever it is, it's not that great, but that's what the news calls it, right? That's the city I choose because I know I wanted to move into that city. And guess where I live at now? I live in Downey, in that city. So everybody wants to move into that city. So even if it's a rental, if it's in the outskirts compared to like right next to the other cities that are not as desirable, I choose to buy there, and I'd rather pay a little bit more and build an ADU there because I know my want to live in that city. So that for me is like a number one thing. Schools are good. And then crime's usually a lot lower than the surrounding cities.
Yeah, I mean, those are all good points. So I know for me as an investor, I'm looking for places with some appreciation. Got to be some appreciation coming. I'm looking for good rent growth or steady rents at least. At a minimum, if I buy it, if it cash flow and the rent steady, there might be some value add. I'm looking for job growth. I'm looking for a school district, right crime, low crime areas. And there's tons of other metrics. I mean, we could talk about that all day. I think we have I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we just talked specifically about that, building or buying in the right location. But great question, Anthony. Seth, if you want to move on to the next one. And Eric, I don't know if you can see the chat, but Eddie said he's in Lakewood. You're down the street from me. So, Eddie, make sure
we built quite a few ADUs in Lakewood too. So Lakewood's a great city to build in.
Yeah, make sure you follow Eddie. Make sure you follow Eric. And so I've seen this a lot on TikTok, Instagram, and I figured I would ask you: have you seen a lack of quality in today's building standards because of the high demand? I've heard of stories of people just building stuff real quick just to get it built. No inspections being done. Have you seen that in your industry, particularly in your area?
Not in our area, dude, because everything's so red tape. Plans, permits, and all that. You can't get away with that stuff here. Yeah, you could build an illegal garage conversion, right? And nobody knows. But then once the neighbor tells on you, you're in trouble, right? But for the most part, everything's done to inspections. Everything's done to code. Obviously, there's contractors. And I genuinely think this is why we stay so busy, because I'd rather take my time and do it right than trying to pull a fast one and get it done quickly. And the work's very shoddy. I have seen a lot of shoddy work, but most of the times everything's done with inspection, so it's kind of hard to, try to pull a fast one like that.
Good.
Standards drop. Yeah.
So, and for you guys that are listening too, when you're investing, maybe you might not have, as tight restrictions specifically where he is, or you might just be you might invest out of city limits, for example. There might still be a demand, but it might be out of city limits. Make sure that you're doing those inspections, right? Have an inspector that can come in and do those inspections for you to make sure everything, your new build or whatever type of property that you're buying or following up on your contractor, to make sure you do have a high quality product when you're finished.
Yeah, I think if you're doing stuff outside of town, or if you're in smaller towns and stuff like that, you can get away with a lot of it. And a lot of investors, that's one of their key location factors, right? Is that I don't have to worry about the red tape and the permits and stuff like that. I'm completely the opposite. I would love to have the people come out, right? It keeps all my guys in line. I don't have to be the bad guy as the project manager, because I sit in the project manager role in my company as well, like Eric with him running stuff. Keeps my guys in line. Like, it's not me, man. It's the inspector. You got to do this right. You got to do it right the first time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So I appreciate that. Well, next one, Seth. This is always a good one that we get for newer investors, people who have just joined. What are the things that they should be looking out for before hiring a contractor? And you guys, you have to watch Eric's videos because he brings high level. You always break it down. So I feel like this is a great question for you.
I think number one is track record. I'll give you guys an example of what I mean by track record. One of my friends, I don't know if you know him, Tony. He's inside the Thatcher's group, but one of my friends, Tony, he decided to build a 1,200 square foot big ADU with the rooftop deck in the city of Venice, California. He chose his contractor, guys, that looked okay. Like, he didn't look bad on the surface, right? But he didn't do his due diligence. Hired him. This guy probably charged him around $250,000 up to framing. The whole budget was around $350,000, so he was giving payments in advance, and he walked away after framing. So now he's in the hole for $250,000, probably $100,000 worth of work. So this guy lost $150,000. And yes, could you sue the contractor? Probably you can. I'm not saying you can't, but most people that are doing this type of stuff, most contractors that are doing this type of stuff, have nothing to lose. So what are you going to sue if they have no assets? What are you going to sue? You can't sue anything because there's no assets to sue. So there's nothing you could really go after this guy. So this all goes to show is check Yelp reviews, check Google reviews, see if you could walk a few job sites with them, talk to other investors that have worked with them. Don't just get pumped up because it's like your friend's cousin or uncle. Like, that's the red flag right there. Like, oh, my cousin. Oh, have you done work with them? No, but my cousin, he's good. Okay, like, I don't trust you that much to put hundreds of $1,000s on the line, or whatever, $10,000, $15,000 on the line. That's a big risk. So I would say check their digital footprint. Like, this is why I over put stuff on social media and on Google and all this stuff, because I want people to like do all their research and know everything about me before they actually do business with me. And that just drops the level of stress from all our clients, which at the same thing, I'm not saying all contractors will do this because most won't, but check their work, check what they've done, and vet them out, and shop around. Not the cheapest is always the best. Shop around, make sure it's apples to apples. Don't say, oh, well, this guy's charging me, let's say the bid comes at 10,000, this guy's charging me 8. But are the two bids exactly the same? Sometimes, most of the time, they're not. So you gotta determine that. What does that make sense for you? Who's more trustworthy? At the end of the day, it's trustworthy over price all the time.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that one too. And one of the biggest things that you said that resonates is, if you don't have a digital footprint somewhere online as a contractor, it's a red flag for me, right? You got to have something. You got to have a Google review. You got to have some YouTube video. I got to be able to see something to legitimize that you are what you are. Even a portfolio, right? Or like you said, checking other previous job sites. I want to see the work you've done. I want to see a quality of work you've done. And, most contractors that I've worked with, they're happy to show you like the jobs that they've done. It's a badge of honor to show off, like, hey, I did this, right? So if I think it's totally fair to make sure that you ask a contractor for, that for sure, their portfolio. I look for things like even down to the basics, making sure they have proper insurance.
Mhm.
Yeah, making sure they actually licensed, bro. You know, in certain areas, especially when you invest in, some guys might be like, yeah, I'm a contractor. They just might be con men. So making sure that these people are legitimate before you even vet them out or while you're vetting them out.
You know the stories I talk about, Ray, of people losing 200, 250, $300,000. People think I'm playing. People are like, "Oh, you're just trying to get more business." I'm like, "Dude, I'm busy. I like, it's not about getting more business." I'm like, "People, protect yourselves." And maybe it's not those type of numbers everywhere across the U.S., but I get messages. I don't know, maybe once a week of somebody losing a lot of money,
I
and it's
mean,
just,
even taking a loss on $5,000 is a loss.
yeah, that'll hurt. That'll
Yeah,
hurt.
it's gonna hurt. So even if you want it, this goes from anybody building a new home for you to somebody just working on a project for you. Maybe they're doing a turn on one of your renovations. Make sure that you vet them properly. And I think this aligns with what you mentioned. Your message aligns with everything of making sure that you vet these people properly whenever you do work with them. So I appreciate that. Seth, on to the next one.
Uh-oh. There we go.
And so this was something, I guess we kind of lead into this topic.
It ties in.
Yeah, how are payments typically scheduled for large projects? And when is the first payment ideally made?
Got it. So right here in the state of California, we have $1,000 or 10%, whatever's less. So
Mm,
we're talking about $1,000, right?
mm.
Ideally speaking, let's say Erwin, is it the guy that lives in Lakewood? Um your guest that lives in Lakewood?
Yeah, he's in
Eddie.
Lakewood. Eddie's in Lakewood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say Eddie's like, hey, I want to start, and let's say he's doing 2 units. It's gonna come out to like $600,000. Just give an example. Theoretically speaking, I cannot start with $1,000, right? But
Yeah.
that's the contract agreement. So what we usually do is always based on inspections passed. So we give the breakdown on the contract way ahead. It's a DocuSign. The customer signs it, we sign it, and it's just agreeing all terms, right? So we'll do like foundation, we'll do 10%, right? So if we can't build with $1,000, as soon as demo starts, we charge 10%, right? Because $1,000 is not going to get me anywhere. But 10% on 500,000, that's 50K. Okay, that's workable, right? And by that time, you're like, damn, well, I'm gonna dish out $50,000 or whatever it may be. But at the same time, it's like, once again, you already vetted your contractor, so now you're going into bed with this guy, right? In other terms, like it's a marriage for about a year in big large projects, right? So then from there, we go percentages on inspections passed. So if we pass all the roughs, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, we get a percentage. As soon as we do framing, we get a percentage. As soon as we do the roofing, we get a percentage. I like being behind on payments just to, once again, reassure the customer that I'm gonna walk off. So at the end of projects, I sometimes have a balance of like 20% of the total project. And that's like, why would I walk off if you probably owe me $70,000? Just makes no sense.
Yeah, and I've heard horror stories, guys, of contractors walking off when they have that 70 to 80% left, and then they just walk off from it from there sometimes, and it might even be, 90% left, or sorry, or 10% left and it might just be the finishing details, and contractors will walk off because they're like, oh, okay, it's only a couple bucks, you know. Have you seen that in your market? Have you seen that before?
All the time, dude. And those last little finishing details are the most costly because let's say a new contractor walks on the project, they're not going to send their guy. It's going to be a whole day. Like they're going to charge you per day and then some because there's a thing called opportunity costs. Once I have to shift my guys from what we're doing to your job site, then I charge more because I'm losing money over there. So I have to charge you more to make up for it. And a lot of people are like, dude, you're really going to charge me, let's say, to change a cabinet, $2,000? I'm like, yeah, I am, because it's going to take away from my normal operation.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the most costly ones is when they walk off on the last little finishes. For sure.
And then go ahead, Seth. You want to say something?
I mean, it comes down to communication between, the homeowner or the owner and that contractor, right? And building that good relationship and understanding, like you're saying, this is a relationship that may last for a year, right? So that y'all can be on good working terms so that that doesn't happen. Because, coming from a contracting background, like when I went and looked at projects just like what you're saying, and the work had already been finished. No, this guy left. Like that's a red flag for me as a contractor too. So it's
Yep.
the same thing for Eric, right? Like I don't know if this person's going to be very easy to work with if a contractor walked away from money, you know? So that's the mindset that a contractor has coming in to fix somebody else's problem is why did that contractor leave and leave money on the table? So
Yeah.
communicating is going to help that a lot.
Another key point, guys, that he mentioned that I don't want you to overlook too is that they're getting paid on inspections passed, right? So if you're working with a contractor over a bigger period of time, make sure that you set up those inspections with an inspector. It might cost your inspector or it might cost you a couple $100 to have an inspector go out there. And I know, Eric, you might be talking about, having a power company come in or, or the city inspector. But guys, even if you're working, if you have to have a property inspector come in, pay that extra money to have that inspector come in because it could save you headache in the long run, right? If they do a bad framing job, the inspector's going to let you know, hey, this isn't up to these qualities don't meet the standard of what you need to have. And you'll know right then and there instead of going deeper into this. Because once the drywall goes up, you won't even know what's there, right?
Yep.
If the plumbing, if they could do they could do shoddy framing, shoddy plumbing, and then the drywall goes up and you have no idea. And so making sure you do those steps during the inspection can actually save you a ton of money. So don't be cheap trying to do this process. And I think this is one of the biggest things we could talk about here is not to be cheap. The cheapest price is not always going to get you the best quality. All right. Especially when we invested in real estate.
Never does.
Try not to go cheap on that.
It never does.
Okay.
Yep.
Seth, next one. This is a good one too. People are, whether they're doing refi or they're working with hard money lenders or something, when they're getting financed, they might ask for a scope of work, right? What do you think are some of the most important parts of the scope?
Well, for us in the type of construction we do A through Z. So we do like, let's say, foundation all the way up to the finishes, right? So we go everything. I don't think there's one thing that's more important than the other, but for us as a construction business, I think framing is very important and all the structural stuff is very important. But the customer on the backside never sees any of that. So I tell all my framers, like, yes, frame great, but once you guys come back to do any little finish, that's what really counts for us because that's what the customer's always going to see, that scope of work, the finish. I'm not saying to ignore the rest of it, but I'm saying like, hey, the finish work always has to be on point 100%. And most of the time, like I told you guys earlier, that's the costly part because you have to come back till the customer's satisfied. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with losing man hours to make sure I provide a good service. That's me personally. And that scope of work as far as like hard money loans, it really depends on the hard money lender, what they're going to want to see, right? Like I told you guys, I do everything or I do nothing. There's only one exception. I think you know him, dude. His name's Jerry. So he does he wants to self-manage some stuff. And I said, you know what? Whenever you need my guys, just let me know and I'll charge you a day rate or whatever. But that's an exception because we've probably done, I don't know, like 8 projects for him. So it's kind of like I become his ally in real estate. So, and he became a good friend. So there's always going to be exceptions like those. But for the most part, there isn't. Most contractors want to be hands-on and take care of everything because then you slow down my production. If you're bringing in, let's say, your drywall guy or your AC guy, you slow down my production because I can't control that guy.
Yeah.
The key with this one is on like document, like because you said that you send over a DocuSign so that everything's kind of laid out and stuff like that. Like, what are the key points that you put in your actual document, your scope of work with clients to kind of spell out stuff, right?
Got it. So every single trade we list it and exactly we even go to the detail of how many can lights we're gonna put in the unit because it's crazy. Like I'll say we're gonna install 8 can lights and then the customer comes back with 16. Well, that's gonna be a change order for me, right? Or that way I won't get the owner and only put 4 can lights. Like we agreed to 8, right? How many square feet of tile? Where the tile's going? There's some customers sometimes we're gonna put a backsplash, but they want backsplash all the way up to the ceiling. And I'm like, dude, like, no, we're talking about apples and oranges. That's going to be a change order. Oh, well, it doesn't say that. Well, it says that right there in the agreement where it only said backsplash below cabinets, right? So you could have that little line of backsplash under the top cabinets and above the the slab on the quartz countertop.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important part of the scope is to make sure that when you get a scope of work from a contractor, make sure it's super clear about what is going to be provided. You know, like he mentioned, in your eyes, you might be like, oh, okay, they're going to put tile up, and you might have this vision, and if that scope of work is not clear enough, or on your end, it might be a change order. You might be like, look, as a contractor, that's not what I was providing. That's never the intention. So make sure that the scope of work is clear for both parties, and that way you get the correct price for both parties as well, you know.
The biggest thing I've seen where like we have miscommunication with the customers is Taiwan named it what type of cabinets, right? Like prefab or custom made, what type of doors. So we put budgets on all this stuff. So like exterior doors, I'll put like a $500 budget. Now they could go all the way up to the $500. Install price for me is the same, but I'm talking about the material. They might go higher end material. Now, if it's a higher end material, I gotta change my price for labor because now I gotta bring in another guy just to help them out with that door. So we're talking always put standard finishes. And if customers want to upgrade, well, that's up to them. But most of you guys are doing this for rentals. You guys should just keep it standard stuff you could easily find at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever is in your area. Not trying to get every custom thing possible in the unit. That's not going to give you more rents.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So I guess this leads us into our next question. How are change orders handled? So if you get a customer that's like, oh, well, I thought it was this, or oh, I wanted this. How do you handle that on your end? And how should most contractors you think should handle those?
Personally, when we first give out a price for the whole project, I already add in like a 3 to 4% buffer. So they're like, oh, dude, this guy's being cool. He's hooking me up. I'm like, nah, I already added it in. I'm just like, but if it's minor stuff, now they come out with like, I don't know, they want something very custom that's going to cost us a few thousand. That's a conversation we have to have a conversation about, right?
Yeah.
But usually, I know this is against most contractors. If it's minor stuff, I got it. I'm already there. It's not going to cost me, make me, or break me. I care more about the customer experience. Now, if it's something bigger, that is, we're talking about $1,000 or more, maybe even $500 or more, then that's a conversation we have to have. But they're like, hey, could you install the Ring door light for me or doorbell for me? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like my guy's already there doing finish work. That's not a problem. That's not like that's not a big deal. But
Also
yeah,
the
that's how.
difference. Go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead. I was going to say that's also the difference of having somebody that does everything or does nothing, like you said, right? Versus piecing that out, getting your drywall or your electrician and you're this. If you're going in and somebody's just doing drywall, right? And you change their scope of work, well, they're just there to do your drywall. So they are going to hit you with a change order a lot more frequently than somebody who is like a general contractor like you that's handling a full project. So it definitely has a benefit to be working with somebody that's handling the whole entire scope as an investor.
Yeah.
And here's another thing when people try to piece things together, especially on new builds, and I don't know how many of you guys are doing new builds, but especially on new builds, my drywaller is the same drywaller all the time. If we need to adjust something, he's not going to come back at me with a change order. My electrician's the same thing. My plumber's the same thing. Nobody's going to come back at me with a change order unless it's ridiculous. So when you're on a new development or a new project, like a bigger scale project, that's why it's important. I feel like, hey, you get a contract because all these little things that you're going to want to change, like Jerry, for instance, he changes his mind every other week. Like I could be like, all right, cool, we got that, bro. Like we'll get it covered because it's not going to it's not going to cost me. And yes, I could make profit off of that. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's not where I make my money.
Guys, I want to add this here because I've done both routes, right? I've tried to source and put pieces together like a GC would. It is not worth the nightmare, guys. It is a hassle getting different trades to come up at the right times. Sometimes the trade won't show and it throws your whole project off. It is just not. And every time I do this, right, and I get to the point, I'm like, all right, well, maybe I could save a couple bucks. And I've done it even on like a project I did last year. I hated every damn minute of it, guys. I hated every minute, and I knew I would have saved time if I would have just went with a GC on that one. So please take that learning lesson of it is a lot easier, and unless you want to manage your own damn project, by all means, go ahead with it. It might save you a couple bucks, but most of the time for me, it ain't worth the headache.
Yeah.
It just ain't worth it. So If y'all ever see me managing a project, just stop me while I'm ahead. All right. If y'all ever hear me say I want to do something myself, just stop me.
I'm doing
You
it
got
right
one or
now.
two. Come on.
I'm doing it right now. I understand.
Yeah, it's a headache, man. And kudos to you guys who are GCs on listening, and kudos to you, and Eric, kudos to you too. I think we got one more, two more, Seth.
Yeah, I think one more.
I think it's a good one too. How do you handle disputes or disagreements during a project?
I always take the loss.
Ooh, now that's a good contract, guys.
Yeah, right.
And why do you say that? Let me ask you that. Why do you feel that way?
I always take the loss because at the end of the day, my reputation matters more.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's what matters the most to me is my reputation. And this is maybe I'm gonna lose a few $1,000, $1,000, $500, $300, whatever it is. But my reputation is a lot bigger and is worth a lot more in the long run than, oh, this guy did me wrong. I just don't want those words being said about me. This guy did me wrong, because those will hurt you in like 15 years down the line. You won't even know it hurt you. So I'd rather take the loss ahead of time and say, you know what, cool. We got it. We'll figure it out. I just don't want a customer ever coming back and saying they did me wrong.
And that's what we alluded to at the beginning. This was reputation, and even that online presence. You know, that taking that loss might get you a 4.5, maybe a 5-star versus the 2-star of, oh, this guy screwed me over, or the 1-star, this guy screwed me over. That bad review. So maybe walking away or taking that loss might actually, I mean, I guess in the end game, it'll save you money. And and I guess on your end, you can learn like, hey, this is how this person operates if I ever do a job with them again.
And that's the thing. Like I think one of you guys mentioned this earlier. As much as construction people want business, I vet the customer more than they vet me.
Yep.
So I really don't run into disagreements, big disagreements. We really don't, because once again, our marketing's on fire, our sales are on fire. I could pick and choose, cherry pick who we want to work with. Obviously, I'm in this situation, but I made this situation for myself. So same thing. It's like once you guys become investors, like Ray's got a lot of properties. Contractors want to work with him, so now he could cherry pick a good contractor. So you have to build that up, and luckily we have that. I don't have huge disagreements, and if we do, I'll just take the L on it all day.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. I think that's high level. Guys, you just got to be on the lookout, right? If your contractor not busy, it's something wrong, right? Especially if we get into the warmer season and your contractor not busy, there's something wrong with them, I think. And that's like a red flag for me immediately. Is if you that good, why are you free?
Right.
Yep.
If the price sounds too good to be true, especially with a contractor, guys, it's probably not true, man. It's something wrong.
When you're looking
I
at
think we could end
contractors,
this now.
they say that there are three things that you factor when you're looking at a contractor: their price, their quality of work, and their availability. Are they scheduled 6 months out, right? You're never going to be perfect on all three of those. You're never going to have somebody available tomorrow that's the best price and does the best work. It just doesn't happen, right?
Yep.
Eric, you say something else?
I said I think you could end it, bro. Like you guys need to be careful on what you just mentioned is price. Price, like everybody's always going after the cheapest. It's not sometimes, it's never the best.
Yeah, right.
I have yet to hear somebody, I made it happen with a cheap price. Yeah. Especially development game.
And as investors, that's all, and a lot of times that's how we think. We think price, got to get this down, got to get this down. And that's very important. But think about, we're holding some of these properties for 15, 20, 30 years. You may hold some of them for the rest of your life. This is bigger than just this, this one thing, or saving 5,000 or saving 10,000 on new development. You want quality more than you don't want that headache 5 years down the line. What is a warranty like for new development, a new build, Eric, in your area?
We give all roughs and structural 3 years.
3 years, right?
Yeah.
So you guys don't want something to come back 5 years down the line because you went with a cheaper price, right? Think about that. So it's deeper than just like, okay, I saved 1,000 on framing. Well, what is that going to cost you later?
It all comes down to when you guys are buying too, right? Like the easiest way to lose money is to pay too much, right? Well, if your numbers are wrong and you're factoring in, I know this guy and he can do me the best price and he can do this and he can do that. You start having to cut all these different things to save money on the renovation, right? Like that's where you're going to lose it. Like
Yeah.
factor in having a guy like Eric that's going to be able to do everything for you. Like, I mean, I've walked properties before I bought them with a GC and said, give me a ballpark now. Like, let's talk about what the numbers are. You're looking at like 50 grand. Okay, cool. Well, then I'm gonna factor in 50, 55 grand on this renovation so that I know I've got a buffer to work with this guy and I don't have to piece it out and pull my hair out like, like Ray was talking about.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I think those are the last questions that we had, Seth and Eric. I appreciate you answering. Oh, I guess this is one just to shout out your company too. What sets your company apart from other contractors in the area?
Well, I give all the bad and the ugly of the contractor world where most contractors try to hide it. So I let people know, hey, here's what's going on with most contractors. Here's the bad part. I'm on social media. I'm on Google. Like I can't hide. So, and another thing, your contractor has to do what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
So he has to be in the game with you. If he's like not even thinking about investing and you guys are investors, like that's that. I know you're gonna probably say like, well, he's gonna know all the ins and outs. Well, yeah, that's probably a good thing, especially if you're new. Especially if you're new, that he knows all the ins and outs. Like I met this guy that I keep mentioning him, Jerry, when he had 0 properties. Now he has 10 in a matter of 3 years because I saved him a lot of headaches and just stress that he could have been going through.
Yeah. And guys, that's the value of working with the right people, being around the right people, having mentors. Is to save you the headaches, save you from that stress. Like I said, it might cost you a little bit up front, but in the end game, you'll save so much.
Let me ask you a question, Ray. You had one when you first started with your first properties or your set of properties. How was your first contractor?
So I'll tell you guys, I did my first ones myself, and I hated every freaking minute of it. I tried to piece stuff together and get this guy. My first contractor was good, but I didn't know enough, right? I didn't have any of these resources. Knock on wood, I've had some great experiences. I've had some shoddy ones too, right? I've had some really shoddy ones, but I do my due diligence. I make sure I vet them. I practice the same things that we apply here, right? So, and it varies. Like roofing companies, I get my referrals for contractors. They come as referrals, right? They're coming from people who have used these people before, who they have a good track record, a solid track record. That's how I'm getting, the people that I want on the team now, right? Go ahead, Eric.
You just said something that reminded me. You said your roofing company.
Yeah.
If somebody called me just for a roof, think about this, guys. We're not roofers. Our our bread and butter is framing, electrical, foundation, paint, finish work. We're not roofers. What most contractors that are hurting for work will do is, oh yeah, I'll go quote you that, and then sub it out to the roofer. I don't do that. And if you get a contractor that says, yeah, we could do your roofing, that's not really the person that's going to do your roofing. So you're already losing money there. You need to go direct to the source, the roofer, the guy that actually installed the shingles. So what we do is like, hey, I don't have time to go do that here. Here's a number. Go talk to my roofer. Yeah. And he's happy. He'll give me better prices when we're doing our development because I'm giving him more work on the back end. And I don't want like a little, what do they call it, referral fee? I don't need that. Like we don't want that. So it's just, you scratch my back, I scratch your back type of deal. But be careful of that.
Major key, guys. And as you bought that, you just keyed it in how I have contractors for certain things, right? And I have a couple GCs that I work with. When I need something that they don't do, they don't say, yeah, I got you, Ray, and sub it out. They're like, yo, just call this guy. He's the guy that I use. You use him. Here's his number. Here's the referral. They're not trying to piece it out, trying to make a couple extra dollars. Most of the guys, the GCs I use, they too damn busy. They don't care. They're not there to, oh, okay, here, I'll nitpick and cherry pick $50, $100, $500. They're like, hey, here's a referral. So, my roofing company that I use, the main GC I use for, framing or something like that, that is what he does. My roofer, they only do roofs. They don't do anything else. My siding company, they do siding. They don't do anything else. They are very specific to what they do. So I have to agree with you on that one too. The guy who does it all and will get you a quote on it, sometimes it's a little fishy,
Yep.
Because if the guy can do, hey, look, I can get you a quick, and it's always the same scenario and same story. Oh, I can get you a quick plumbing quote. And it might just be like, all right, well, he doesn't really do plumbing. He's just gonna sub it out, right? And then when he subs it, I'm gonna see that actual other company's truck pull up to my job site too. You know, it's the crazy. You like, damn, I should just call them in the first damn place.
Yep.
You know, so huge red flag when I see that. Guys, real quick, Eric, I know your time is very important. I appreciate it. Anybody want to ask Eric a question? Quick Q&A before we wrap up for this afternoon, this evening. If you want, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead, Gus.
So for materials, what's your thought on it already been said, I didn't catch it, but what's your thought on materials if the seller wants to buy the materials opposed to the GC buying it?
If the owner wants to buy the materials compared to the contractor like us,
Yes, correct.
I will not do the project. And let me explain to you why. Because you're not gonna know exactly what I need. So you're gonna make the trip to Home Depot. You're gonna delay my guy's payroll hour. Then I'm gonna have to like wait. My guys are gonna for you to take the material. The whole project's gonna take longer. So if I could normally do 30 projects a year, I'll only be doing 20 projects a year because I'm on your schedule. You're not on my schedule.
Very.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gus. No, go ahead.
If I could ask a follow-up question. So on the materials, you know, obviously we know that you guys, well, not you guys, but contractors are known to mark the materials up. Would you say as a well-oiled business, how you guys are running it, is that something that you guys do?
Yeah, we do. You have to. And the reason why most investors don't think about it, where's the material coming from? Home Depot, right? Let's just give an example. Home Depot. I got to go to Home Depot, or one of my guys has to go to Home Depot. I got to spend gas. I got to be there early. If there's a line at Home Depot, it takes me, and honestly, there's sometimes I like, hey, I personally have to go get material. It takes me from when I get there to the job site with the material, maybe 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. And the Home Depots are close, but sometimes there's that many people there. So what does that time cost?
Yeah.
So any logical contractor and a logical investor has to see this as money.
Yeah.
And for yourself, let's just say for yourself, well, I could go get it. Then you don't get the right material. Like this has happened real time with this guy, Jerry. He wants to go get the material to save money. I said, hey, bro, go do your thing, you know? I said, cool. He's like, I 100% regret doing all this. And he's on his 10th house right now. He's like, I 100% regret doing all this. It's taken away from my family. The project's slowing down. Things are out of operation of like order of operation. Like he put tile before we leveled the floor. So now the tile's under the actual floor. So now he has to figure out some custom stuff to do in order for us to do that. But I'm not managing the project. So overall, if you're going to hire a contractor, yes, they're going to mark it up. Of course they are. But it's not what every investor thinks, that they're making a huge profit off the markup on the material. It's just not.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And I've been in that situation before. I told you guys, I tried to do this before on my own, and it was the biggest mistake. Guys, if you go to Lowe's, whatever your time is worth, there is no trip that you go to Lowe's or Home Depot that takes less than an hour. Never. I've never been there. From the time I got in my car to the time I got there, went through the checkout aisle, paid, and went back to the site, it never takes less than an hour. Now, if I got to do 20 of those trips, how much is your time worth? It's silly for you as an investor, especially if we're talking about bigger projects too. Like Gus, I think if you're doing like, hey, I need, some doors installed. I need 10 doors installed. I'll go get these doors. But even that as a contractor, one of the doors, and Eric, you might see it, one of the doors might be the wrong measurement. They might get the wrong size door. Then what? Now you got to go back and get the right door.
Is it a left swing or is it a right swing, right? Like,
there you go.
Come on. Like, I mean, there's little details that the average person that isn't doing it every single day just don't understand, right? A left-hand drain versus a right-hand drain on a tub. Like that costs you a day going back to Lowe's.
100%.
A different tub.
100%. So, Gus, I hope that answered your question. Nicole, you got a question real quick. Eric, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'd rather be searching for my next property. But hi, Eric. I do know Tony. from Santa Barbara, probably. I wanted to ask, so my property management company is often offering to hire contractors, manage the project for me. Do you work for property management companies? Do they ever hire you? And is that something you would recommend, or would you recommend that we as investors work directly with our contractor?
I'd recommend you work directly with the contractor because obviously, unless you have a portfolio, then by all means, right? Unless you're like a Grant Cardone and then you just got money to throw away, then that's
Yeah.
cool, right? But I don't think most of us on this call are in that status. So I would say work directly with the contractor. We personally don't work with property management. I go direct to seller, direct to like how we buy properties right off market. I go directly to the client that wants to build an ADU. So that's how I do it with social media, right? But no, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing for contractors to do that. Just us personally, we don't do it because our margins are bigger going direct to the customer.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. You brought tremendous value. Guys, if you're not following Eric, go check him out. If you're in the California area, make sure you work with him. Thank you again, Eric. I appreciate your time today, man.
No worries, brother. We'll talk soon, dude. You
Yes,
guys
sir.
take care.
Appreciate
Thank you for having me on.
Of course,
Thanks,
I
Eric.
appreciate it. We'll do it again soon.
Yes, sir.
So guys, Eric was awesome. Great having him in here. And man, that was great. I'm happy you guys were able to ask questions. We can do some short Q&A. And guys, tomorrow we'll be doing the Wednesday call. Tomorrow noon, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you need the invite, just DM me. We'll be talking about, I think, Seth, we're talking about goal setting, and then we'll also be talking to you guys specifically. It's going to be an hour chat. We want to hear from you guys. This is curated for you guys. We want to hear about the deals that you're working on, and maybe help you maybe analyze a deal or just discuss real estate in the area. We'll be discussing real estate that's happening throughout the U.S. as well.
Yeah, this is more a mastermind type situation, right? Where it's more group oriented.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a bunch of presenting and things like that. This is our way to try to help you guys grow. And in doing so, I'm sure that we're going to pick stuff up that's going to help us grow as well, right? There's a lot of knowledge in this room that Ray and I don't have that you guys have. We'd love to be able to tap into that as well. So it's all going to be about a group sharing.
Yeah. If you need the link, just DM me, Aiden. I just saw your call. If you can DM me on Instagram, I'll get the link. Just send me, if you guys need it, just send me your email. You can text me. Some of the students, you can text me or just DM me, and we'll get you put on a Wednesday call.
Yeah. Same thing. My contact information is up there. You're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'll do the same too.
Yep. Before we wrap up, any quick Q&A, any questions that we can help you guys answer for this week? Going once, going twice. Awesome. Finally ended on time, Seth.
Yeah, right. Behind every successful project is a contractor who knows how to hammer out the details. It's very
Yes.
true, though. It's very true. I've done both of them, just like what Ray's saying. I am in the midst of doing it now, managing it and stuff like that. And it can be a headache. You know, if you buy things right, you don't have to do that, right? Like factor that in the beginning.
This was very insightful, very insightful. Anthony, you can contact us through Instagram. Yes, you can DM me, you can DM Seth. I'll respond. And I saw you message in Instagram too, so I'll get back to you for the link as well. Just drop me your email in the chat. Guys, next week we'll be talking about financing your next deal, whether it be your first one, your second one. If you're taking down 10 units, we're going to talk about how to finance this. I got my DSCR lender, a guy I work with very closely. He will be on a call next Tuesday. His name's Jack. He'll be on a call next Tuesday. So if you guys are looking for lenders, they specialize in working with investors. I think they only work with investors. So whether it be you trying to build something, you're trying to fix and flip, or you're just buying and holding, they have all programs and categories. So I'll be bringing him on next week. And then to the students, if you guys want some high level, we can even try to get him on a Wednesday. Or if you want an email introduction when we're done, I can make that happen for you guys as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I will see you guys next Tuesday, some of my students, I'll see you guys later this week.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.